I was still holding the steering wheel when my phone buzzed at 7:38 p.m. The leather felt cold against my palms. I had parked outside Delmonico's for exactly 3 minutes. The street smelled faintly of exhaust and grilled meat drifting from the kitchen vents. I checked my watch again. Lucas was never late. Not tonight. Not when we were finalizing an $800,000 decision. I stepped out of the car and adjusted my jacket. The evening air sat at around 62 degrees. Cool enough to notice. Warm enough to ignore. Inside, the restaurant hummed with low conversation and the clink of glass. Dim amber lights reflected off polished wood. A waiter passed carrying 2 plates of steak. Butter and garlic hung in the air. I saw them at table 14 near the back. Lucas stood when he saw me. Vanessa stayed seated. She smiled. Just enough teeth. "Dad, you made it," Lucas said. "Traffic wasn't bad. 7 minutes slower than usual," I said. "Nothing unusual." Vanessa leaned forward slightly. "We already ordered wine. Hope that's okay." "It's fine," I said. "Tonight isn't about the wine." I sat down and placed the folder beside my plate. The weight of it mattered. Paper always did. Lucas glanced at it immediately. "That's the transfer paperwork?" he asked. "Draft structure," I said. "Final version after we confirm the property details." Vanessa's eyes flickered. Brief. Controlled. "We already signed the purchase agreement," she said. "Closing is in 9 days." 9 days. That number mattered. Deadlines always did. I nodded slowly. The waiter poured wine. I didn't touch it. I had learned that habit in 1998. Chicago. My supervisor, Martin Klein, sat across from me during a $2.4 million acquisition. He tapped the glass twice and said, "Never drink when the other side needs you relaxed." The room smelled like cheap cologne and copier toner. I remembered that detail. Sharp. Unpleasant. I hadn't taken a sip that night either. And I didn't now. "We appreciate this, Dad," Lucas said. "This house. It's everything we wanted." "It's a big step," I said. 35 is a good age to anchor something permanent." Vanessa nodded quickly. "Exactly. Stability. Long-term thinking." I watched her hands. Fingers steady. No ring adjustment. No tapping. Controlled people always revealed themselves in what they didn't do. The waiter set down bread. Warm. Slightly sweet smell. I broke a piece and didn't eat it. I needed my hands occupied. I needed to look like I wasn't thinking. I had seen this pattern before. Too clean. Too aligned. No friction between them. Real couples disagreed. Even subtly. These two moved like rehearsed partners. I told myself to slow down. Don't jump to conclusions. Gather information. Always gather first. "So the plan is simple," Lucas said. "You wire the $800,000 tomorrow morning. We close next week. Then we move in by the 1st. At 9 a.m., Vanessa added. "That's when the escrow officer said is best. Specific time. Prearranged." That told me something. I nodded again. 9 a.m. works, I said. "I'll confirm with my bank tonight." My phone buzzed again. I ignored it. Then Vanessa's phone lit up on the table. She glanced down. Her expression didn't change. But she stood up immediately. "I need to take this," she said. "Work thing. I'll be right back." "Everything okay?" Lucas asked. "Just a client," she said. 2 minutes. She walked toward the hallway near the restrooms. Not outside. Not far. Just far enough. I watched her go. Then I looked at Lucas. He smiled. Too easily. "She's been stressed," he said. "This whole process. You know how it is." I did know. But not the way he meant. I leaned back slightly. The chair creaked under my weight. 67 years. 38 of those in finance. I had structured deals worth over $120 million. I had seen sons lie. I had seen wives manipulate numbers. I had seen partners disappear the day after closing. Patterns didn't change. People did. But not much. I heard her voice before I saw her. Low. Just around the corner. The hallway carried sound differently. Narrow spaces always did. I didn't move. I didn't turn. I just listened. The words came through clearly enough. "He's ready. Tomorrow morning. 9 sharp." A pause. Then softer. "Once the transfer clears, we don't need him anymore." My hand tightened around the bread. I didn't crush it. I held it. I needed to stay still. I needed to hear everything. "Lucas will handle it. He doesn't know yet. But he will." Another pause. A slight laugh. Quiet. Controlled. "It's $800,000. That's the number." I set the bread down slowly. My chest felt hollow. Not tight. Hollow. That was worse. I stared at the table, at the wine glass, at the reflection of the overhead light bending across the surface. This wasn't anger. Not yet. This was alignment. Pieces clicking into place. I had walked into this blind. That part was on me. But now I could see it. Structure. Timing. Control. I thought of Eleanor. 2019, our kitchen. Early morning light through the east window. She held a cup of coffee and said, "You always trust people first. That's your strength. And your weakness." The smell of cinnamon still lingered in that memory. I hadn't argued with her then. I wasn't arguing with her now. I let out a slow breath. Not visible. Not noticeable. Just enough to reset. I knew what this was. I knew exactly what this was. I also knew something else. They thought the transaction was the end. For me, it was the beginning. Vanessa's heels clicked as she walked back toward the table. Measured. Controlled. She sat down and picked up her glass. "Sorry about that," she said. "Just work." I looked at her. Directly. For one full second. Then I smiled. "No problem," I said. "I'll have the $800,000 ready by 9 a.m. tomorrow." Lucas exhaled. Relief. Immediate. Vanessa didn't react. Not outwardly. That told me everything I needed. The waiter approached again. "Are we ready to order?" he asked. I didn't look at the menu. I didn't need to. I kept my eyes on Vanessa. She lifted her glass slightly and said, "Richard, you're making the right decision." I closed the car door at 8:42 p.m. The sound echoed across the empty parking lot. The night air felt colder now, around 58 degrees. I sat behind the wheel and didn't start the engine. The dashboard clock blinked 8:43 in soft blue light. I placed both hands on the steering wheel again. Same position as before dinner. Same pressure. Nothing about this felt accidental anymore. The smell of leather and faint cologne filled the car. My own. Something I had worn for years. Consistency mattered. I took out my phone and opened my banking app. 3 accounts appeared immediately. Primary. Secondary. Discretionary trust. I tapped the third one. Balance. $1,240,000. Enough for this. Enough for more. I didn't rush. I never rushed money decisions. Not after 2007. That year had burned it into me. I remembered a client. Harold Benton. Age 71. We sat in a conference room in June 2007. Air conditioning too cold. Paper smelled like fresh ink. He signed a transfer of $3.1 million without reading page 4. I told him to slow down. He didn't. He trusted his son-in-law completely. 6 months later, the money was gone. Offshore. Untouchable. Harold never recovered. I watched a man age 10 years in 1 week. I never forgot that. I never repeated that mistake. I leaned back in my seat and closed my eyes for 2 seconds. Not longer. I needed clarity. Not rest. I knew exactly what Vanessa was doing. Structured manipulation. Emotional leverage through Lucas. Timing aligned with property closing. Clean execution. But she made one mistake. She assumed I would act like Harold. She assumed I would sign without restructuring. That assumption changed everything. I opened the Notes app and wrote 3 words. Escrow. Conditional. Reversal. Then I added numbers. $800,000. 9 a.m. 9 days to closing. The structure built itself in my head. I would allow the transfer. But not as a gift. Never as a gift. It would be a controlled asset. Layered. Protected. Trigger-based. I picked up the phone and dialed a number I had not used in 14 months. It rang twice. "This is Carter Blake," a calm voice answered. "Carter, it is Richard Halstead," I said. "I need a trust structured tonight." Silence for half a second. Then recognition. "Richard, it has been a while. What kind of structure?" "Conditional property transfer. $800,000. Escrow tied to behavioral clauses," I said. "Time frame?" he asked. "Draft in 2 hours. Execution by 9 tomorrow morning," I said. Another pause. Longer this time. "That is aggressive," Carter said. "What is the trigger condition?" "Financial deception. Verifiable. Immediate reversal of ownership," I said. "Who are we protecting?" he asked. I looked at the empty windshield. Reflections of streetlights blurred slightly. "Myself," I said. "And possibly my son." Carter exhaled softly. "Send me the property details." "I will start drafting," he said. "Add a clause for spousal interference," I said. "If she attempts control, asset locks." "Understood," he said. "You will have something by 11:15 p.m. The call ended. I placed the phone on the center console. My hands felt steady now. Completely steady. I started the engine at 8:51 p.m. The car hummed quietly. Controlled. Predictable. Unlike people. I pulled out of the parking space and drove slowly toward the exit. The road stretched ahead under dim streetlights, each one about 40 feet apart. I noticed the spacing. I always noticed patterns. I was not angry. That surprised me. I expected anger. Instead, I felt calculation. Clean. Focused. I had seen this before. Just not this close. Not inside my own family. I thought about Lucas. Age 35. Still believing trust was enough. I had raised him better than that. Or I thought I had. That part unsettled me more than Vanessa. I turned onto the main road at 8:55 p.m. Traffic was light. 3 cars ahead. 1 behind. Distance between each about 60 yards. I kept my speed at 35 miles per hour. No reason to rush. I needed precision, not speed. My phone buzzed against the console at 8:57 p.m. A message preview lit up the screen. Unknown number. I ignored it for 3 seconds. Then I picked it up. 1 message. 1 line. A document link attached. No greeting. No name. Just text. I opened it at the next red light. The file loaded instantly. Bank transfer history. Clean format. Dates aligned in columns. Every 21 days. Same amount. Same receiving account. I scrolled once. Then stopped. Total transferred. For $112,000. Account holder name displayed clearly at the top. Vanessa Cole. I turned into my driveway at exactly 9:12 p.m. The garage light flicked on automatically. Yellow. Harsh. Familiar. I parked and stayed inside the car for 5 seconds. The engine ticked softly as it cooled. The silence felt heavier than before. I picked up my phone again and reopened the document. Same numbers. Same pattern. Every 21 days. $412,000 total. That was not random. That was discipline. That was planning. I stepped out and walked toward the front door. The night air had dropped to 55 degrees. Colder now. The faint smell of cut grass lingered from earlier. Inside, the house felt still. Too still. No television. No music. Just the hum of the refrigerator from the kitchen. I placed my keys down on the counter. The marble felt cool under my fingers. I walked straight to my study without turning on lights. The desk lamp cast a narrow pool of white light. Enough to work. Enough to think. I sat down and opened my laptop at 9:18 p.m. The screen glow reflected faintly in the window. My own face looked back at me. Older than I remembered. But steady. Still steady. I uploaded the file from the message and expanded the columns. Dates aligned perfectly. Amounts varied slightly. $18,500. $21,000. $19,750. Structured to avoid attention. Clean. Intentional. I zoomed in on the receiving account. Routing number. Bank name. Local. That surprised me. Not offshore. Not hidden. That meant confidence. That meant she believed no one was looking. I leaned back in my chair and let the numbers settle. This was no longer about a single $800,000 transfer. This was a system already in motion. I had stepped into something already halfway complete. I needed to adjust faster. I opened another tab and pulled up Lucas's known accounts. 2 personal. 1 joint. No sign of these transfers. That meant one thing. He was either excluded or unaware. I paused on that thought. That mattered. That changed the structure. If he did not know, then this was not partnership. This was control. I rubbed my thumb along the edge of the desk. The wood was worn slightly. Same spot for years. Habit. Grounding. I needed that. I needed to stay exact. I thought back to 2011. Denver. My colleague Susan Park sat across from me during a review meeting. The room smelled faintly of burnt coffee. She slid a file across the table and said, "If the money moves without noise, it has been moving for a while." I had nodded then. I nodded again now. This had been running for at least 14 months. Maybe longer. The pattern said experience, not impulse. I checked the timestamps again. Every transfer occurred between 8:45 p.m. and 9:10 p.m. evening window. Predictable. Repeated. That told me she had routine access at that time. Same window as tonight. Same window she stepped away from the table. I felt the alignment tighten. Clean lines. Clear structure. I stood up and walked to the window. The street outside was empty. 1 car passed every 2 minutes. Headlights cutting across the pavement. I watched one pass at 9:27 p.m. I did not feel shock anymore. That had already passed. What remained was calculation. This was no longer reactive. This was strategic. I had to assume she had backup plans. I had to assume Lucas might resist once informed. Or worse, he might already know. That thought settled deeper than I expected. I did not like that possibility, but I could not ignore it. I returned to the desk and picked up my phone again. I dialed Carter Blake a second time. He answered immediately. I have started the draft, he said. Send me everything you have, I said. There is more than expected. What kind of more, he asked. 412,000 already moved over 14 months, I said. Silence. Then a shift in tone. That changes the protection layer, Carter said. We will need full asset containment. Do it, I said. Add surveillance clause on transfers. Retroactive audit trigger. Understood, he said. I will revise the structure. You will have version 2 by midnight. Make it airtight, I said. No room for interpretation. It will be, he said. The call ended. I placed the phone down slowly. My reflection in the window caught my eye again. Same face. Different context. I understood something now that I had not before. This was not about a house. Not about a gift. Not even about money. This was about control. About removing me from the equation completely. And I had walked right to the edge of it. I looked back at the laptop screen one more time. The numbers did not change. They never did. Only the meaning changed. I reached for the keyboard and opened the bank transfer panel. Primary account selected. Amount field blank. I typed 800000 carefully. No commas. Just numbers. Clean. Direct. I entered the destination as the escrow account Carter had just created. Not Lucas. Not Vanessa. Escrow. Controlled. Conditional. I reviewed the routing number twice. Then a third time. No errors. No hesitation. I placed my finger over the authorization key. One press. That was all it required. One action that could not be undone. I did not think about Lucas. I did not think about Vanessa. I thought about structure. About control. About timing. Then I pressed it. The confirmation screen appeared instantly at 9:34 p.m. Transfer scheduled. $800,000 locked into escrow under conditional trust. I remember Jason Miller in 2005. He sat across from me in a glass office. The room smelled like burnt espresso and printer ink. He told me one sentence that stayed for 20 years. Control is never given. It is taken early. I stepped out of my front door at 9:46 p.m. The porch light flickered once before settling. The air felt colder now, around 53 degrees. I locked the door behind me and walked to the sidewalk. The neighborhood was quiet. One dog barked 2 houses down. A car passed slowly. Headlights washed over the pavement. I checked my phone again. No new messages. No calls. That was expected. They believed everything was still moving forward. I started walking toward the corner, about 120 yards from my house. The street smelled faintly of damp asphalt and fallen leaves. I needed movement. I needed distance from the desk. My mind worked better when I walked. I replayed the timeline carefully. 6 years since I met Vanessa. 2018. Thanksgiving dinner at Lucas's apartment. She had smiled the same way then. Controlled. Measured. I had not questioned it. I should have. Then March 2024. She lost her job. Marketing director. $92,000 in debt within 8 months. That was the trigger. Not greed. Pressure. Then control. That was always the real objective. Not the money itself. The position it created. I stopped at the corner and looked both ways. No cars. Just silence. I crossed slowly and kept walking. My shoes scraped lightly against the pavement. Consistent rhythm. I needed that. I needed something predictable. I understood something clearly now. This was not just about removing me financially. It was about isolating Lucas. Cutting off every external influence. I had seen this pattern in 2013. Another case. Another family. Same structure. Different names. I pulled my phone out again and dialed Lucas. It rang twice. Then connected. Hey, Dad, he said. His voice sounded normal. Too normal. You home yet? I asked. Just got in, he said. Vanessa is in the shower. I glanced at my watch. 9:52 p.m. That lined up perfectly. Good, I said. We need to talk about tomorrow. A pause. Slight. About the transfer? He asked. Yes, I said. 9 o'clock. Everything is set. That is great, he said. I was actually worried something might delay it. I stopped walking. That sentence mattered. Why would it delay? I asked. Another pause. Longer this time. Just, paperwork. Thanks. Stuff like that, he said. I could hear water running faintly in the background. Shower. Consistent. Listen carefully, I said. Tomorrow is not a gift. It is a structured asset. Silence. Complete. What does that mean, he asked. His tone shifted slightly. Less confident. It means ownership is conditional, I said. It means protection is built in. Protection from what? He asked. I exhaled slowly. Not visibly. Just enough. From mistakes, I said. From decisions made too quickly. Dad, that sounds complicated, he said. It is not complicated, I said. It is necessary. Another silence. 3 seconds. I counted them. Vanessa won't like that, he said finally. There it was. Not we. Vanessa. I felt that distinction settle in my chest. Heavy. Clear. This is not about what she likes, I said. This is about what is correct. She is my wife, he said. This affects her too. It affects you first, I said. Everything else comes after. The water sound stopped abruptly in the background. Timing. Precise. I have to go, Lucas said quickly. We will talk tomorrow. The call ended before I responded. I lowered the phone slowly. That was not accidental. That was interruption. That was coordination. I stood there for a moment under a streetlight. The bulb flickered once, then steadied. I understood something else now. Lucas was not fully in control. Maybe not at all. That changed the approach. I could not treat him as an equal participant. Not yet. I needed to isolate variables. Remove influence. Create pressure points. I turned and started walking back toward the house. The distance felt shorter now. Maybe 100 yards. Maybe less. My mind moved faster than my steps. I reached my driveway at 10:01 p.m. The garage light clicked on again. Same yellow glow. Same stillness. I walked inside and closed the door quietly. The house felt colder than before. Or maybe that was me. I went straight to the kitchen and poured a glass of water. No ice. Just tap. The taste was flat. Neutral. I needed neutral. I placed the glass down and looked at my phone again. One new message appeared at 10:03 p.m. Sender unknown. Same format as before. No greeting. No name. Just text. I opened it immediately. One sentence. Clean. Direct. Check the joint account opened under Lucas Halstead on April 14, 2024. I remember Daniel Reyes in 1996. We stood outside a courthouse in Dallas. The air smelled like hot concrete and cigarette smoke. He told me one thing before walking inside. If 2 names appear on the same account, only one controls it. I stepped into my car again at 10:07 p.m. The engine started with a low hum. The dashboard glowed faint blue. I backed out slowly and turned onto the street. The neighborhood was silent. Now, no movement. No sound except tires on asphalt. I drove toward the main road. About 0.8 miles away. My hands stayed steady on the wheel. I kept my speed at 30 miles per hour. No reason to rush. I needed to think clearly. The message replayed in my head. April 14, 2024. Joint account under Lucas Halstead. That date mattered. That was 1 month after Vanessa lost her job. That was not coincidence. That was sequence. I reached the intersection at 10:11 p.m. The light turned red. I stopped and picked up my phone. I opened the banking portal again. I typed Lucas's full name. The system returned 3 results. 2 I already knew. 1 new. Opened April 14, 2024. Joint account. I tapped it once. The screen loaded instantly. Balance, 17 cents. That meant nothing. I scrolled down. Transaction history populated line by line. Clean formatting. Same pattern. Every 21 days. Same amounts I saw earlier. $18,500. $21,000. $19,750. All moving through this account first. Then redirected to Vanessa's primary account. I exhaled slowly. That confirmed it. Lucas's name was being used as a pass-through. Not as an owner. Not as a partner. As a shield. I stared at the screen for 5 seconds. No emotion. Just structure. I understood something deeper now. Vanessa was not just removing me. She was positioning Lucas as the visible layer. If anything surfaced, his name appeared first. Not hers. That was not financial planning. That was control architecture. I turned right when the light changed at 10:13 p.m. The road ahead was empty. Streetlights spaced about 50 feet apart. I drove another 0.6 miles and pulled into a 24-hour bank branch parking lot. The building lights were bright. White. Clinical. I stepped out of the car. The air felt colder here. maybe 50 degrees. The faint smell of cleaning chemicals drifted from the entrance. I walked toward the glass doors. They slid open automatically. Inside, the lobby was silent. Only the hum of fluorescent lights overhead. A single security camera rotated slowly near the ceiling. I walked to the ATM area and sat on a bench. Cold metal. Uncomfortable. Good. I needed that. I opened the account details again. I traced the first transaction. April 14th, 2024. $15,000 initial deposit. Source account masked. That meant external origin. Not Lucas. Not Vanessa directly. I scrolled forward. Every transaction followed the same structure. Deposit. Hold for less than 12 hours. Transfer out. Clean. Efficient. I leaned forward slightly. Elbows on knees. Phone in both hands. This was not impulsive behavior. This was designed. Practiced. Repeated 14 times. That meant she had confidence in the system. That meant no resistance from Lucas. Or complete ignorance. I needed to confirm which. I tapped the contact icon and dialed again. Lucas answered after one ring. Too fast. Dad, he said. His voice sounded alert. Not tired. Not distracted. Alert. Are you alone? I asked. Yes, he said. Vanessa went to bed. That was new. 10 minutes ago she was in the shower. Now asleep. Timing shifted. I need to ask you something specific, I said. Okay, he replied. Did you open a joint account on April 14th, 2024? Silence. Not long. 2 seconds. But enough. Yeah, he said. Vanessa suggested it. For shared expenses. How often do you use it? I asked. Not much, he said. A few transfers here and there. Amounts around $18,000 to $21,000? I said. Silence again. Longer this time. For seconds. I counted them. I do not remember exact numbers, he said. His tone shifted. Slightly defensive. I felt the alignment lock into place. This was the moment. This was the confirmation. He was not controlling it. He was not tracking it. He was part of the structure without understanding it. I straightened my posture. The bench creaked softly under my weight. Lucas, I said. Tomorrow is not what you think it is. What does that mean? He asked quickly. It means the transfer is protected, I said. It means nothing moves without conditions. Dad, you are making this complicated again, he said. We talked about this. No, I said. You talked. I listened. I paused. 1 second. Enough to reset the tone. Now I am speaking, I said. He did not respond immediately. That was new. That silence meant something. It meant hesitation. It meant uncertainty. Good. I needed that. I needed him off balance. I looked at the glass doors. My reflection stared back at me again. Same face. Same posture. But the situation had shifted completely. This was no longer about Vanessa alone. This involved Lucas's name. His access. His role. Whether intentional or not. That changed the equation. I ended the call without waiting for his reply. That was deliberate. I needed control of. Timing. Not reaction. I stood up from the bench and walked toward the exit. The automatic doors opened with a soft mechanical sound. Outside, the parking lot was empty. Completely empty. I walked back to my car and paused with my hand on the door handle. I understood something now that I had not before. Vanessa did not just want the $800,000. She wanted the structure that followed it. The inheritance. The long-term control. And Lucas was already positioned inside it. My phone buzzed again at 10:22 p.m. I looked down. Same unknown number. One new message. I opened it immediately. One sentence. Clean. Final. The account was not opened by Lucas Halstead. I remember Clara Whitman in 2002. We stood in a hotel lobby in Boston. The air smelled like polished wood and citrus cleaner. She leaned close and said, "People confess when they think no one important is listening." I drove straight from the bank to Lucas's house at 10:41 p.m. The street was darker here. Fewer lights. Longer shadows. His driveway sat about 30 feet from the curb. I parked across the street instead. Engine off. Lights off. I stepped out slowly. The air felt colder than before. Around 49 degrees now. The house lights were still on inside. Living room and kitchen. Yellow glow through the curtains. I walked along the sidewalk. Slow. Controlled steps. Gravel crunched lightly under my shoes near the edge. I stopped about 18 feet from the side window. Enough distance to stay unseen. Close enough to hear. The window was slightly open. Maybe 2 inches. That mattered. Warm air drifted out. mixed with the faint smell of shampoo and something floral. I heard movement inside. Footsteps. Then voices. Vanessa first. Clear. Calm. Did you check the transfer schedule? She said. Another voice answered. Male. Not Lucas. Lower tone. Yeah. 9 a.m. tomorrow. Same as planned. I stayed completely still. No movement. No breath wasted. Vanessa spoke again. Good. Once that 800,000 clears, we close the loop. The man responded immediately. And Lucas? He asked. A short pause. Then her voice dropped slightly. Colder. He does not need to understand everything, she said. He signs. That is all. My chest felt hollow again. Not tight. Just empty. The man laughed quietly. You used his name for the joint account. That was smart. Vanessa did not laugh. Of course I did. She said. It keeps everything clean. If anything surfaces, it traces to him first. The man shifted position. I heard a glass set down on a table. And the 412,000 already moved? He asked. Safe, she said. All of it passed through Lucas's account. Then redirected. No flags. No questions. He paused again. Then asked the question that mattered most. What about the father? Silence. 3 seconds. Then her voice returned. Controlled. Precise. He thinks this is a gift, she said. He wants to feel useful at 67. That makes him predictable. My fingers tightened slightly at my side. I did not move. I did not react. I listened. That was the only thing that mattered now. The man spoke again. And after closing, he asked. Vanessa did not hesitate. We separate the assets, she said. Lucas stays where he is. I take control of everything else. Everything, he pressed. House. Accounts. Future inheritance positioning, she said. All of it. I felt something collapse inside me. Quiet. Controlled. This was not suspicion anymore. This was confirmation. Complete. Total. My son was not just uninformed. He was a tool inside her system. That realization hit deeper than anything else tonight. I stayed there for another 10 seconds. Enough to hear no more. Enough to confirm the pattern. Then I stepped back. Quietly. Gravel shifted again under my shoe. I froze. Listened. No reaction inside. Good. I turned and walked back toward the street. Each step measured. Each breath controlled. I reached my car at 10:49 p.m. My hand rested on the door handle for 1 second. Then I opened it and got inside. The interior felt colder than before. Or maybe that was just me now. I sat behind the wheel and stared straight ahead. I understood everything now. Not partially. Not theoretically. Completely. This was never about the house. It was about removing me from the structure. Replacing me. Controlling the next stage. I had one advantage left. They still believed I did not know. That window would not last. Not after tomorrow morning. Not after 9 o'clock. I took out my phone slowly and opened the trust document Carter sent at 11:12 p.m. version 2. Updated. Stronger. I scrolled through the clauses carefully. Line by line. Every word mattered. Clause 7.2. Financial deception triggers immediate asset reversal. Clause 8.1. Unauthorized account routing voids beneficiary rights. Clause 9.4. Third-party influence results in permanent exclusion. Clean. Precise. Final. I did not hesitate. I did not pause. I opened the signature panel at 11:16 p.m. My finger hovered for half a second. Then I pressed down and signed the document, locking every condition into place. I remember Kevin Doyle in 2010. We sat in a conference room in Phoenix. The air smelled like dry carpet and strong black coffee. He leaned forward and said, "The moment you confront them is the moment everything changes." I pulled into Lucas's driveway at 11:28 p.m. The house lights were still on, brighter than before. The porch light cast a wide yellow circle across the concrete. I stepped out of the car and closed the door firmly. Not loud, just enough to announce presence. The air felt sharp now, around 47 degrees. My breath showed faintly under the light. I walked straight to the front door. No hesitation. No pause. I knocked once. Solid. Measured. Footsteps approached immediately. Quick. Uneven. The door opened halfway. Lucas stood there. His face looked tighter than before. Eyes alert. "Dad," he said. "It is late." "It is necessary," I said. "We need to talk now." He hesitated for 1 second, then opened the door fully. "Come in," he said. The living room smelled faintly of detergent and something floral. Same as before. The television was off. The house felt too quiet. Vanessa stood near the kitchen counter, arms crossed, watching, calculating. I stepped inside and closed the door behind me. The sound echoed slightly in the room. I did not sit. I stayed standing, about 6 feet from them. Enough distance. Enough control. What is going on? Lucas asked. You called earlier. You sounded different. I am, I said. Things have changed. Vanessa tilted her head slightly. Richard, if this is about the transfer tomorrow, we already agreed, she said. 9 a.m. Everything is set. Yes, I said. Everything is set. I looked directly at her. No movement. No distraction. But not the way you think. Lucas frowned slightly. What does that mean? He asked. I took one step forward. Closed the distance to about 4 feet. It means the $800,000 is no longer a gift, I said. It is a controlled asset under conditional trust. Vanessa's expression tightened. Just slightly. But I saw it. That was not the agreement, she said. It is. Now, I said. Lucas raised his hand slightly. Dad, hold on. What conditions? He asked. Financial transparency, I said. No unauthorized transfers. No external control. Vanessa laughed once. Short. Controlled. External control, she said. That sounds paranoid. I did not respond to the tone. I responded to the structure. April 14th, 2024, I said. Joint account opened under Lucas's name. Lucas froze. Completely still. Vanessa did not move. Not yet. What are you talking about? Lucas asked. His voice dropped slightly. I am talking about 14 transfers, I said. Every 21 days. Total $412,000. Silence filled the room instantly. Heavy. Dense. Lucas looked at Vanessa. Then back at me. That is not possible, he said. I would have seen that. Vanessa stepped forward slightly. About 2 feet closer. Richard, you are misunderstanding something, she said. Those are normal financial movements. No, I said. They are structured pass-through transfers using his name as cover. Her eyes shifted for half a second. That was enough. Lucas turned toward her fully now. Vanessa, he said. What is he talking about? She held his gaze. Calm. Controlled. It is nothing, she said. Accounting adjustments. You know that. I do not, he said. I have never moved $20,000 without knowing. I watched them both carefully. Every reaction mattered. Every second counted. The account was not opened by you, I said. That is what matters. Lucas's face changed. Not anger. Not yet. Confusion. Deep confusion. Then who opened it? He asked. Vanessa did not answer immediately. That silence stretched. 3 seconds. 4. 5. I counted each one. She finally spoke. It does not matter who opened it, she said. It was for us. No, I said. It was for control. She turned toward me sharply. You do not get to define that, she said. Her voice rose slightly. First crack. I already did, I said. At 11:16 p.m., Lucas looked between us. Back and forth. What did you do? He asked. I met his eyes directly. I locked the entire transfer into a conditional structure, I said. Every dollar is now protected. Vanessa stepped forward again. Now only 3 feet away. You cannot do that without our consent, she said. I already did, I said. Silence again. Heavier this time. Lucas rubbed his face with both hands. Slow. Deliberate. This is insane, he said. All of it. The account. The transfer. What is happening? I watched him carefully. This was the pivot point. This was where alignment broke. Or held. You need to ask her, I said quietly. He turned slowly toward Vanessa. His voice changed. Lower. More focused. Did you open that account? He asked. She held his gaze. Did not look away. Yes, she said. Just one word. No hesitation. No apology. The room felt smaller instantly. Tighter. Lucas stepped back 1 pace. Exactly 1 foot. Why? He asked. She did not answer immediately. That delay mattered more than any words. I felt something shift completely in that moment. Not in her. Not in me. In him. The foundation he stood on moved. And once that happens, nothing returns to where it was before. I remember Laura Bennett in 2017. We sat in a quiet cafe in Seattle. The air smelled like roasted coffee beans and warm sugar. She looked at me across the table and said, when control slips, people reveal who they really are. I stepped outside Lucas's house at 11:47 p.m. The door closed behind me with a dull sound. The night air hit colder now, around 45 degrees. I walked down the driveway slowly. Gravel shifted under each step. Behind me, I could still hear raised voices inside. Muffled now, but sharp. I reached the sidewalk and stopped for a moment. The street was empty again. No cars. No movement. Just the low hum of distant traffic about half a mile away. I took out my phone and checked the time. 11:49 p.m. Everything was still within the same window. Everything still unfolding exactly where it needed to. I turned left and walked about 60 feet down the block. Then I stopped again. I did not want to be inside that house anymore. Not after what had just shifted. Not after what Lucas had seen. I leaned against a parked car. The metal felt cold through my jacket. I could still hear Vanessa's voice in my head. Clear. Controlled. She had not denied anything. That mattered more than any explanation. I closed my eyes for 1 second, then opened them again. I needed to stay present. I needed to stay exact. I walked back toward my own car at 11:52 p.m. Each step felt lighter now. Not easier. Just clearer. I opened the driver's door and sat down. The interior smelled faintly of leather. And the same cologne I had worn earlier. Familiar. Controlled. I placed my phone on the dashboard and stared at it. I replayed every line she had said inside. Every pause. Every shift in tone. This was not panic from her. Not yet. This was adjustment. That meant she still believed she could recover control. That meant she would push back. Hard. I started the engine at 11:54 p.m. The dashboard lit up again. Blue. Consistent. I drove forward slowly and pulled away from the curb. I did not look back at the house. Not once. I did not need to. I already knew what was happening inside. Lucas was asking questions. Questions he had never asked before. That alone changed everything. I turned onto the main road at 11:56 p.m. The streetlights passed overhead every 40 feet. The pattern felt steady. Predictable. Unlike what I had just left behind. I drove about 1.2 miles before stopping at a red light. The intersection was empty. I rested my hands on the steering wheel again. Same position. Same pressure. I let my thoughts settle into structure. Vanessa had lost control of one thing tonight. Information. Lucas now knew something was wrong. That could not be reversed. Not by her. Not by anyone. That was the fracture point. I understood something else now. This was no longer about exposing her. That had already happened. This was about what came next. About how far she would go to regain control. That part was still unknown. That part mattered most. I exhaled slowly and checked my phone again. No new messages. No missed calls. That silence told me something. She was not reaching out. Not yet. That meant she was recalculating. I drove through the intersection when the light turned green at 11:58 p.m. The road ahead was empty. I increased speed slightly to 40 miles per hour. I needed distance. Physical distance. I needed space to think without their voices in the background. I drove another 2 miles before pulling into a small gas station. Open 24 hours. Fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. The smell of gasoline mixed with cheap coffee drifted through the air. I parked near pump number 3. I did not get out immediately. I watched a truck pull away from the far side. Engine loud. Then silence again. I stepped out at 12:03 a.m. The cold air felt sharper now. I walked toward the small store entrance. The automatic door slid open with a soft mechanical sound. Inside, the lighting was harsh. White. Clinical. A clerk stood behind the counter. Mid-30s. Tired eyes. He glanced up briefly. Evening, he said. Morning. I corrected quietly. Just turned midnight. He nodded once. No interest beyond that. I picked up a bottle of water from the cooler. The plastic felt cold in my hand. I paid cash. $2.75. No conversation. No delay. I stepped back outside at 12:06 a.m. The air felt even colder now. Around 42 degrees. I leaned against the side of my car and took a small sip. The water tasted flat. Neutral. I needed neutral. I needed clarity. I looked down at the ground for a moment. Then back up at the empty lot. I understood something fully now. Vanessa's mistake was not the account. Not the transfers. It was underestimating the moment of exposure. Once Lucas saw the structure, her control weakened instantly. And control, once weakened, does not return cleanly. It fractures. I placed the bottle on the hood of the car and pulled out my phone one more time. I opened the trust document again. Clause 9.4 remained on screen. Third-party influence results in permanent exclusion. I read that line twice. Slowly. Carefully. Then I accessed the execution panel. Final enforcement. No delay. No reversal. I hovered for 1 second. Then I pressed confirm and permanently activated the exclusion clause against Vanessa. I remember Thomas Green in 2008. We stood on a rooftop in New York. The wind carried the smell of rain and steel. He looked at the skyline and said, "You never lose control in one moment. You lose it in layers." I pulled into a quiet parking garage at 12:18 a.m. The structure echoed with each tire rotation. Concrete walls reflected the engine sound back at me. I parked on level 2. Space number 27. The fluorescent lights flickered overhead. The air smelled like oil and dust. I turned off the engine and sat still. The silence pressed in from all sides. I checked my phone. 12:19 a.m. No new messages. No missed calls. That absence mattered. It told me something had shifted back at the house. I stepped out of the car and closed the door slowly. The sound echoed twice across the empty level. I walked toward the stairwell. About 40 feet away, my footsteps sounded louder than usual, too sharp against the concrete. I pushed the stairwell door open and stepped inside. The air felt cooler here, around 40 degrees. The smell changed. Damp, metallic. I sat down on the second step, cold steel under my hand. I needed to think without movement, without distraction. I replayed everything in order. The account, the transfers, the conversation, the confrontation. Each step aligned perfectly, too perfectly. That was the problem. Real situations had friction. This one did not. That meant something was missing. I leaned forward slightly, elbows on knees, hands together. I needed to identify the gap. I had assumed Vanessa was the architect, the planner, the one driving every decision. That assumption had guided every move I made tonight. But something felt off now. Something did not match. I thought about Lucas again. His reaction, his confusion, his hesitation. It felt real, not staged, not controlled. That mattered. I closed my eyes for 2 seconds, then opened them again. I needed to stay precise. I took out my phone and scrolled through the transaction file again. Same numbers, same pattern. $412,000. 14 months. Clean execution. Then I noticed something new. A detail I had overlooked before. Each transfer originated from a different external account. Not one source. Multiple. Rotating. That was not Vanessa's pattern. That required coordination. That required access beyond her reach. I felt the shift immediately. Subtle, but undeniable. I stood up from the step and walked back toward the garage. My pace quickened slightly. Not rushed. Just sharper. I reached my car and leaned against the hood. Cold metal through my jacket. I stared at the screen again. I zoomed in on the routing numbers. 3 different banks. 3 different states. Illinois, Nevada, Arizona. That was not random. That was network. I exhaled slowly. This was larger than I thought. Much larger. I replayed her words again in my head. Every sentence. Every pause. She had claimed control. Claimed ownership of the system. But the structure behind it told a different story. She was not the origin. She was the operator. That distinction changed everything. My phone vibrated suddenly at 12:26 a.m. I looked down. Lucas's name appeared on the screen. I answered immediately. "Dad," he said. His voice sounded different now. Not confused. Not uncertain. Focused. "I need you to listen," he said. "I just checked the account you mentioned." "And?" I asked. I kept my voice steady. "There are transfers I did not authorize," he said. 14 of them. Total around 400,000. "I know," I said. "That is not the worst part," he said. A pause. Short. Controlled. "The account is not just linked to Vanessa," he said. "There is another name attached." My grip tightened slightly on the phone. "What name?" I asked. Silence. Then one word. Clear. Direct. "Ethan Cole." The line went quiet for half a second. I processed it instantly. Cole. Same last name as Vanessa. Not coincidence. Not random. Structure. Family structure. I looked back at the screen again. The routing numbers. The pattern. The coordination. Everything aligned now. Vanessa was not building something new. She was continuing something already in place. Something established. Something larger than her. I felt the entire picture shift in that moment. Not expand. Shift. This was never about a daughter-in-law manipulating a father. This was about a system that existed before I ever entered it. And I had mistaken the operator for the architect. I remember Eleanor Halstead in 2019. We stood in our kitchen at 6:12 a.m. The air smelled like cinnamon and fresh coffee. She touched my hand and said, "You cannot control what people choose. Only how you respond. I drove out of the parking garage at 12:38 a.m. The exit ramp curved slowly upward. The headlights caught dust floating in the air. I merged onto the empty road without stopping. The city felt different now. Quieter. Colder. Around 41 degrees. I kept my speed at 35 miles per hour. No need to rush anything anymore. The structure was already in place. The outcome was already decided. I just needed to let it unfold. I drove for about 2.6 miles before pulling into a small overlook near the river. The water reflected faint streetlights. Soft movement. No noise. I parked and turned off the engine at 12:44 a.m. The silence settled immediately. I stepped out and walked to the railing. The metal felt cold under my hands. The air smelled like water and distant rain. I stood there and looked across the dark surface. No movement except small ripples. I thought about everything that had happened in the last 5 hours. From 7:52 p.m. to now. One evening. That was all it took. One evening. To shift everything I thought I understood. I took a slow breath and let it out. I was not angry anymore. Not even disappointed. What I felt now was clarity. Clean. Undeniable clarity. Vanessa was not the architect. Ethan Cole was. That name changed the entire structure. That meant this had been running long before Vanessa entered my family. That meant Lucas had stepped into something already built. Already functioning. I had not been targeted personally. I had been identified as an opportunity inside an existing system. That distinction mattered more than anything else. I understood something else now. My response tonight had not stopped the system. It had only blocked one path. My path. I stepped back from the railing and looked at my phone again. 12:47 a.m. Still no new messages. Still no calls. That silence confirmed what I already knew. They were adjusting. Recalculating. Moving to the next option. Systems like this did not collapse. They adapted. I walked back to the car and leaned against the door. The metal felt colder now. I opened the trust document again. Every clause remained active. Every condition locked. The $800,000 was no longer accessible to them. Not directly. Not indirectly. Not through Lucas. That part was finished. I had closed that door completely. I thought about Lucas again. His voice. The shift in it. The moment he realized something was wrong. That moment mattered more than any clause I signed. Because that was where his future would be decided. Not in my account. Not in Vanessa's plan. In his ability to see clearly. I opened my phone and dialed him one last time at 12:52 a.m. He answered after 3 rings. Slower this time. Dad, he said. His voice sounded tired. But steady. Are you okay? I asked. No, he said. Honest. Direct. But I understand more now. I nodded slightly. Even though he could not see it. That matters, I said. Understanding is where control starts. He was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke again. Was any of this about me? He asked. I took a breath. Careful. Measured. It was always about you, I said. Just not the way you thought. Silence again. But not empty. Different this time. Then he said something I did not expect. I am coming to your house tomorrow morning, he said. Alone. The line stayed open for 1 second. Then he hung up. I lowered the phone slowly. That was enough. That was all I needed. I got back into the car and started the engine at 12:56 a.m. The dashboard lit up again. Same blue glow. Same steady hum. I drove away from the overlook without looking back. The road ahead was clear. No traffic. No obstacles. Just distance. I understood something final as I drove. Control is never about holding everything. It is about knowing exactly what to let go. Trust is not broken in a single moment. It erodes quietly until one detail exposes everything. And the truth is this. The people who try to control everything usually reveal the most about what they fear losing.